everyone, and welcome to my channel, and today I'll be reading a multi-character listener by me. So let's get into it. Kokushibo. Kokushibo did not know how to react to this information. Sometimes you were really weird. Sometimes some of your behaviors were quite unexplainable. He didn't know how to make sense of them. He didn't know if there was any sense that could be made of what you said. And sometimes the most that you could do to just be able to live with himself is accept it, because nothing would change about you. He loves you as you are, of course he does, but sometimes you're really unreasonable. Sometimes you're really just a lot to deal with, in a good way and a bad way. And today was one of those days where he knew that there are so many things he is yet to understand. Maybe it's because of how old he is, and maybe because of how, well, honest, sometimes, and blunt you could be. You know, Kokushibo? You're daddy material. Can I call you that? Can I call you daddy? You say, giggling a little bit, blushing too, and he just had to stare at you for a moment, registering what you were saying, because that was a lot. And he had some hesitations. I mean, what were you really saying to him now? And he had a feeling this was not just in a fatherly figure type of way, and even then, it would be extremely weird, considering the two of you were dating. Wayan, you really need to explain here. Really? You don't know what that means? He shakes his head. And then you have to explain to him what you meant by that. And he blushes a little bit, which is difficult to actually achieve. But here you are, having achieved that too. Oh, Wayan. You know, you can be really something. And that's supposed to be a compliment, right? You say sweetly. And he just shakes his head, completely endeared by you. He loves you more than anything in the world. And he will always admit that you're a little bit more than just frustrating. But he loves you, and he will always accept your rather deranged behavior. Tengen. You and Tengen have been living together for a while now, and everything was fine. Everything was perfect, not just simply fine. You were having the time of your life, and those were the happiest days you've ever lived. You knew that very well, and you would always cherish it. So you would not forget just how happy you were when you were by Tengen's side. But the thing is, your relationship was quite intense and intimate in more ways than one. But sometimes you also had some things that you would do that would always catch him off guard. He loved you dearly, and maybe one of his reasons for loving you in the first place was just because how you would make his heart beat, how you could not resist you, how you meant the world to him. And maybe there was something about the way that you just wrapped your arms around him today and called him daddy. He just froze for a moment. Honestly, who wouldn't? You'd never called him that before, so it was quite surprising. Not to mention, you had said it with quite a voice that he could not forget. And he felt his cheeks heat up just a little bit, which was quite unusual, as you were usually the one blushing. Whoa, Ion. You're quite excited, aren't you? You could say that, but I love you. You know that, don't you, Daddy? You say, giggling a little bit at how silly you're acting, but you really like seeing his reaction. And he just huffs, shaking his head. All right. Don't you worry about that. We'll deal with your excitement later on. But just let me have my breakfast. But after that, I'll show you what true love is, baby. And he sure showed you a lot. I mean, he never really held back in the first place, but with the way you were acting, There was a lot more he wanted to show you than usual, and the two of you certainly had a lot of fun. Sanemi. Sanemi was not really used to the way that you were acting right now. You were behaving weirdly since the morning. You've been acting clingy. You've been talking to him in a sweet voice. But most of all, you're about to surprise him even more with the new nickname that you picked out for him. He doesn't know why you chose this. But most importantly, at first, he had no idea what you meant when you called him Daddy. He just looked at you in absolute confusion and put a hand to your forehead just to check that you were not having a fever. Wyan, what do you mean here? And you looked at his serious expression and the way he seemed so clueless, and you laughed. Of course he did. His cheeks heated up a little bit, but then he asked you to tell him. And of course he did. And of course, he ended up looking at you, blushing, and just sighing in pure disappointment. I don't know why I'm surprised. I mean, you shouldn't be. I love you. Besides, it fits pretty well, you know? Those muscles of yours, and the way you act. And you're a bit of an old man, Sanemi. I'm not even old, Wyan. I'm only 21. Well, that's a bit old, isn't it? You're not even that much younger. Come on. No, come on. I want to keep calling you that a little bit more. Wyan, I'm warning you. If you keep calling me that, I swear I will. You'll what? You say teasingly, looking at him, and he goes quiet, because soon he realizes there is nothing he can do about this. And he just sighs, shaking his head, until an idea comes into his head. And he smiles a little bit. I guess if you keep doing that, I won't be kissing you anymore. What? Sanemi, you can't do that. Come on, you're a couple, you wouldn't do that to me. Since you're so lonely as a couple, I guess you should also stop calling me Daddy. Oh, fine. Alright. If you insist. I do. I quite do, Wyan. And that's how you stopped calling him that entirely. As you seem to be quite stubborn on you not calling him that.